what I have in mind is we talk about spiritual economics first, briefly, and then we talk about Dhanashram, concepts of Dhanashram Dharma, and then after that, concepts of culture in general. I'd like there to be a lot of discussion, if possible, anyway, because a lot comes out a lot more comes out in discussion than often just by simply giving a lecture. So anyway, we have 5 days. So anyway, I'll talk as much as I can. I've got a little bit of a health problem right now, but hopefully it won't slow me down too much. Today I want to give you my introductory lecture to spiritual economics. And we begin in Bhagavad Gita at the end. Final instruction of Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's final instruction. Sarvadharma parityagam amekam saranvraja aham tvam sarvapapibhyo mukshayasami masitaha. Sarvadharma, all religion, parityaga, give it up. So this is rather strange, isn't it? We have Krishna, he's God. Usually we think that God wants everybody to follow religion. And here we have Krishna telling Arjuna, give up all varieties of religion. What does that mean? Why is Krishna telling us all varieties of religion? This word dharma can be translated in a number of different ways, but Prabhupada chooses to translate it as religion in this case. And so we want to make sure we understand this, what Krishna's his instruction, because it's the bottom line, right? This is the last instruction of the whole book, the conclusion. And so, what does Krishna actually mean? Does he mean I should stop being a Christian and become a Hare Krishna? Is that what he means? No? Yes? No? Okay. What else can Krishna mean when he says Sarva Dharma? What dharmas is he talking about? To give it up? Oh, that's one kind of dharma, but Krishna is saying Sarva Dharma Parityaga, give up all these dharmas. So, what kind of dharmas is he talking about? Karma kanda? Okay, that's good. Very good, actually. To really understand this, we have to go back to the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and we look at what's going on there in the beginning. Arjuna is trying to convince Krishna that he shouldn't fight in the battle, and he's giving a lot of good reasons why. He says, if we kill these men, the ladies will be unprotected. From that, unwanted progeny will come, the family traditions will be lost, and everything will go to hell. A good argument, because actually what Arjuna predicted happened. But as important as his argument was, we should understand where it is from. So this arguments that Arjuna is giving, where are they from? What's the basis of these arguments? Dharma Shastra, okay, coming from,
From bodily conception.
The what?
From bodily conception.
Bodily conception. No, actually they're from Vedic culture. Okay? The culture of that time, yes, is from the Dharma Shastra. At that time, everyone was following Vedic culture. And they were following Dharma, the Karmakanda section of the Vedas. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, like this. That was the idea. The Varnashram system was intact at that time. And Arjuna is making these arguments, but Krishna is telling him, never mind that. Forget all that. Go and fight. Because I told you to. That's what I want. So, Krishna is telling Arjuna to sarva dharma parityaga, the dharma of his time. Right? The dharma, he's telling him, Arjuna is giving arguments from his dharma, the dharma of his time, his culture. And Krishna is negating them. No, don't worry about that. Don't do that. I want you to fight the battle. So, it's an important point to note. And then we have to also look at that and say, what does that mean to us? What is, when Krishna says sarva dharma parityaga to Arjuna, is it the same thing as when he's saying sarva dharma parityaga to us? What do you think? Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of dharmas that we have from our culture. Okay, Arjuna's culture, the dharma was, protect the ladies, make sure the sacrifices get done, make sure the Pitru Yagya gets performed and so on like this. That was his culture, right? Our culture, we have different dharmas. Our culture gives us different kinds of ideas what is dharma. Let me give you an example from American culture. After living in Prabhupada's temples for about 6 years, my wife and I finally got our own place. We rented a house, and I noticed here on the drive over last night, we have very beautiful grass. It's so green. It's a beautiful place. Very wonderful. In America, we have suburbs. I'm sure you have suburbs also. Same kind of deal. Like that. We didn't go through any neighborhoods like that, so I don't know exactly. But in our suburbs, the houses are set back from the street by about 10 meters or so. And then in front of the house, everybody keeps grass and flowers and shrubbery, and it looks very pleasing. You do the same thing here? Same basic idea. In Ukraine, Russia, they have fences all the way up to the street, and so they don't have that same kind of situation. Anyway, so my wife and I rented our house, and I was trained up in my culture to I should have a nice yard also, so I thought, I was looking at the grass and it wasn't in such good shape. So I thought, I'll go to the store, I'll buy some grass seed, and we'll fix it all up, and I'll be a good member of the community. And then I started to think, well, wait a minute. I'm going to go buy grass seed, but where does grass seed come from? It comes from grass. There's already some grass there, right? So I'll just let the grass grow. It'll make its own seed. And then, right? Lazy intelligent, right? Don't work hard, work smart. So I thought, okay, I'll let the grass make its own seed, and we'll let it happen the natural way. Well, that was my inexperience. I didn't know how long that process actually takes. So after about 3 or 4 weeks, my grass is about this high, right? All the neighbors, their grass is this high. So if you look down the street and you see my house, it looks like nobody lives there. So I knew this was against the Dharma of America when the fellow next door, he sent his 12-year-old son over. He said, my dad wants to know when you're going to cut your grass. So, this is one of our dharmas in America, right? You have to keep your grass cut. Over the last couple of years, I saw some news items on the internet. There was one old lady, about 70 years old. She couldn't keep her yard cared for nicely, and so the police came to arrest her. And then there was another 80-something-year-old man in Florida who couldn't keep his yard watered, and so it all turned brown, and they also came to arrest him, right? So this is the Dharma of America. Keep your grass looking nice. So one idea. What's the Dharma of Ireland that I won't know about being a foreigner here? Huh?
Come on, Ireland, being Irish. That's what visually people say. I'm Irish. Go out to the pub and have Sunday, and then go to Mass on Sunday.
Good.
The grass is a big thing here as well.
Yeah.
Okay, you look in the garden, not good grass, then there's something wrong with it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You States and stuff.
Maybe.
You have a letter from your neighbor.
Yeah, they take it very seriously. Pay taxes, right? To follow the laws, etc. Be a good citizen. There's so many dharmas. So many things that we think, or so many dharmas that are given to us by our culture. Could this be what Krishna is talking about when he says, Sarva Dharma Parityaga? What do you think?
We are not Irish, North America now, just still so.
Yeah. All these dharmas, sarva dharma, all these dharmas, all these other things that you think you're supposed to do, give that up and mam ekam sharanam vraja. Do what I told you in Bhagavad Gita. Aham tvam sarva papibhyo. I will protect you from all reactions. Don't fear. So, there's some of the more, let's say, obvious dharmas, or aspects of our culture that come to mind. When I ask this question, tell me about your culture, people, they generally talk about the more superficial aspects of culture. Culture is such a thing that it's very difficult for us to see because we're raised in it from the time we're very small, and we follow that culture very unconsciously, without even thinking, because we've been trained in it for so long we can't even see it. And if somebody asks us, we scratch our heads and try to figure out, what is that culture? It becomes much more obvious when we have the opportunity to visit a foreign place where the culture is different. And then we can see, by the contrast, the difference between what our culture is and that other culture. So like, if you go to India, for example, you see the behavior, the expectations of the people are different. The way of thinking is different, and so on like this. So this all comes to us in our culture. And when we talk about Varnashram culture, or Daivi Varnashram culture, we're talking about changing the culture, which is actually a huge undertaking because culture is so invisible to us, so unconscious for us. So to try to do things differently, we do things automatically. So to try to change that, it's sometimes very hard. But this is basically what Krishna wants us to do, because we say, we profess, yes, I'm a follower of Bhagavad Gita, right? I'm a Hare Krishna, I've been a devotee of 10, 15, 25 years, and I profess, I believe in Bhagavad Gita, this is my Shastra. But the point is that we don't really, because of this acculturation that we are conditioned by, we don't even realize how we don't follow Bhagavad Gita. Or let's say, it makes it difficult for us to actually see what is Krishna telling us. So let me give you some more examples. So we talked about the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita. What's Krishna's first instruction? Which means?
While speaking there, the very pure and mindful, it's not one of the physical life and the
Yeah, okay. That's still the prelude to his instruction. Okay. Krishna's first instruction, it comes right after that. What follows that?
Series of teachings and soul.
Yeah, you're not the body. Huh? The first instruction is we're not the body. Krishna, he speaks about 20 slokas about all different aspects of the soul, what the nature of the soul is. And then after that, for about 10 slokas, he encourages Arjuna to again participate in the battle. And then he says, Eshite bihitam sankhye, buddhir yoge tunam shinu. So far I've declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sankhya philosophy. Now, listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruit of result. So then, Krishna is going to give the second instruction in Bhagavad Gita. So what's the second instruction? Yeah. Karmani varikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma kama palahitubo mate sangosma karmani. 247. You have a right to perform a prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Now, how many of you have a job or a business? And what do you work for? What do you work for?
Working for
Yeah, what yeah, right. For money. You work for money, right? Otherwise known as the fruits of your activity.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Krishna says you're not entitled to the fruits of activity. He says, do your duty, but the result of that duty doesn't belong to you. We have a problem here, don't we? Huh? Our modern society is organized in such a way to require us to be fruitive actors. We're forced to do fruitive work. Huh? That's the way this whole culture is organized. And it's in direct conflict with Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. Now, we learn from Prabhupada, he teaches us that when the Vedas, they want to emphasize something, they say it 3 times, right? Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo, Nisteva, 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 that's your Nisteva. How many times does Krishna tell us in Bhagavad Gita, you're not entitled to the fruits of action? Many times. 16 times. He tells us over and over and over and over again. And amazingly, most of our devotees don't hear that because of the conflict of the two cultures. We're so acculturated to just working for our money to maintain ourselves that when Krishna says you're not entitled to the fruits of action, it doesn't even register. It goes right over our head. Doesn't, that can't be it. In fact, there was one senior devotee, one of my godbrothers, and one time he was saying, well, I don't think we can follow that instruction anymore. That was back then. This is now. Huh? What do you think of that? Bhagavad Gita is an anachronism? Huh? It applies in time, place, and circumstance?
Is there not another, because of our new understanding of renunciation, as long as everything, then that we have we give to Krishna. So even though we were working, we're trying our best to make some money, and then we're sort of hoping that someday, next week, I'm going to do that relatively quickly.
That's certainly one possibility. Okay. However, I maintain that for most of our devotees, we're not actually doing that. There's a science how to work for Krishna, how to dovetail, how to do everything that we do for Krishna's pleasure and satisfaction. And that's the point that we want to come to. But in my observation, in my experience, I don't think that's what most of us are doing. We are, so many, engaged in fruitive activity. We want to get the results of our activity. So Krishna, he says this over and over and over again. So the first time he says in 247, the next time just 2 verses later, or is that 249? 247. Then in 251, 249. Durena hyavara karma buddhyoga dharanjaya buddhao karnam andicha kripana palahitava. Durena means throw it away, get very, very far away from it, like something with a very bad smell. There's been durena. Put a long distance between yourself and that thing. Durena hyavara karma. Get far away from what? Karma. Get, Dhananjaya, rid yourself of all fruitive activities by devotional service. So, here, then Krishna finishes this up, Kripana Palahitava. Kripana, miser. Kripana Palahitava. Palahitava means the results of activity. So a person who wants to enjoy the results of their work, they're miser. Now, why are they miser? Miser is a person who doesn't know the value of something. Generally, we think of miser in terms of a person who has money, but he won't use it, he won't spend it. But money is meant to be spent. If you don't spend money, it's not serving its purpose. So, this is miser, somebody who doesn't understand the proper value of something. So in this case, Krishna is saying, those who want the fruits of their work, they are misers. They don't understand the proper value of what? Human form of life. Human form of life, we have the opportunity to free ourselves from karma. Next sloka, 50. Buddhyo yukto janatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujjasva yoga kamashu kaushalam. A man engaged in devotional service frees himself from both good and bad reactions in his life. So human life, we have the opportunity to do devotional service and free ourselves from all the results of karma. And this is the proper utility of human life. If we instead use our human life to get fruitive results, then we're kripana. Then we've misunderstood what human life, the value of human life. We're using it for the wrong thing. We've got this valuable thing and we're using it for something stupid. To get some fruitive results for sense gratification. So, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities. Right? 327. What is it? Prakriti kriyamanani ganaya karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudama katalam itimanite. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the modes of material nature, thinks that he's the doer of activities. But actually these things are being carried out by nature. So, foolish people, like asses, they're working hard, thinking I'm going to get the result of my activity, and this way I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to do so many things. And they're thinking that I'm actually producing the result. By my work, the result is coming. But Krishna is saying, no, it doesn't happen like that. Where does it come from? The gunas. The modes of material nature are actually delivering the result, and the foolish person is thinking, I am the doer. How many of you have seen the movie or read the book, The Secret? Okay. So what does this movie teach?
Some kind of personal more very strong of the years from so movie teach somebody know the way how to make money,
Okay.
What my understanding was that mentality creating reality.
Okay.
That's my personal understanding. I looked a couple of times, basically the thing is, in order to karma is a law, you're thinking that there's nothing wrong with
Let me explain for those who haven't seen the movie. Let me explain the movie. This is called The Secret. It's actually old wine in new bottles. This information was given 50 years earlier in a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Have any of you read that? No? Okay. Same thing. Basically, it's teaching the law of karma. That by desire, we simply desire, and the result comes to us magically. Okay? Isn't it? That's what they're teaching in the movie. You desire something, and then the result will come to you. Yeah? That's what it is. Whatever you think, you're going to get that result.
Yeah.
Sure. And this is what we learn also from Nectar of Devotion from Prabhupada's books. That according to our desire, we get a result. But ahankara vimunatma, the bewildered spirit soul under the influence of modes of material nature, thinks that it's by his action that he's bringing the result. But it's actually, no, it's coming from the desire of the living entity. Now karma is a bit of a difficult thing to understand. Krishna says that. He says it's very hard to understand completely how karma is working. But we can get some experience in that by doing basically what they say in the secret. And actually, I encourage the devotees to do this a little bit, just to get some experience and understand how this world is working. For example, some of the people who teach this, they teach a method that you make a list of things that you want. You can make a list 10 things. And then fold the paper up, put it on the shelf, don't even think about it again. Within 1 year, 3 or 4 of those things will come without even doing anything. And I learned about this whole thing. I read this Think and Grow Rich book. Actually, it was the first book I read. I read only Prabhupada's books for about 7 years, and then the first book I read after that was this Think and Grow Rich, because I had a sales job. And it was recommended to the salesman to read this. And so it's teaching karma. How do we create, how do we get these things? I can tell you so many stories about this. I used to live in San Francisco. And San Francisco was built before there was so many automobiles. And so the streets were rather narrow and there's not much parking places. And so if you have a car and you live in San Francisco, it's a real hassle. So sometimes you drive around for a half hour or even an hour trying to find a place to park. So I caught on quickly. I realized that if when I'm leaving the previous place and I'm going into San Francisco, if I visualize a car pulling out just as I'm pulling up to my destination, then I'll get a parking place. First way I started to do it was to just visualize, here's a parking place. Well, that didn't work because there was a parking place, but before I got there, somebody else had pulled in. Right? So I had to see that picture, the car's leaving just as I'm getting there. And it works. I'll give you another example. My wife and I, we wanted to rent a house one time. So I said to her, let's make our list of criteria that we want in the house so that it'll be easy to get. Well, I hadn't taught her enough about these principles because she was thinking that, well, if we're very specific, it'll make it much more difficult to get. And I said, no, it'll make it easy to get. Let's try. So she agreed to try. So we made the list. We want a nice landlord. He's got to be a nice person, easy to get along with, agreeable to working with us. The house should be no more than 2 miles away from the temple. It should have a gas stove, not electric stove. We had blue furniture, so we wanted to have a gray carpet. And most rental houses in America at that time had brown carpets. And the brown and blue don't go together so well, so we wanted gray carpets. And, there's some other criteria. It should be easy to find, right? So, we made the list and then basically didn't do much about it. Within about 2 weeks, somebody came to me and said, hey, I know somebody that's got a house to rent. Here's the phone number, check it out. So, we went there. Check. Landlord was a great guy, had gas stove. It had gray carpet. The rent was right. It came to us very easily. And very strange thing, all except for one room, the carpet was gray, all except for one room, and it had brown carpet. So my wife, when she saw that, she went, oh my God. I said, what? She said, well, I didn't want to tell you, but I wanted one room with a brown carpet. Anyway, I do recommend that you work with this a little bit to understand how this karma is working. Don't become entangled in it, but you'll see that simply by our desire that the result is coming. And also, of course, Prabhupada explains that our karma is already fixed for this life, right? Whatever our destiny is, we're going to get that. So why then, let's say, if we understand these principles properly, we'll understand that my work is actually not, I'm not able to, by my work, get something that I'm not destined to have in this life. I can only get it according to my destiny. I will have to work, perhaps, for my destiny, right? In other words, everybody has to do something. So Krishna says, you're entitled to do your duty. So everybody has their duty. You have to do your duty. But don't do it for the fruits. Instead, do it for devotional service. So Krishna's teaching in Bhagavad Gita to give up this fruitive mentality and to do everything as devotional service. So when he says sarva dharmam parityaga, what he's saying is all these other things, all these fruitive ideas, that whatever you think you have to do according to the culture, according to whatever, that dharma, that idea, that you give up, and instead, Mam may come Sarana Vraja, do everything as active devotional service for me. The Bhagavad Gita is actually meant to take us from giving up, meant to bring us to this point of understanding devotional service. That's the real bottom line of Bhagavad Gita. Yeah.
I'll ask you a question, because talking about this book, about this film, if you want to think like this book teaching and this film teaching, this means that this thoughts also coming to us according to our karma. It was impossible to give these thoughts, thinking about this, I want this house, I want this car.
The book teaches that? I don't think the book teaches that. Because they don't say the word karma, as I remember. Do they? Yeah, I don't remember hearing it. So then, that's my interpretation of what they're doing, but they're not using that word. So this is your question? Is it our karma, what we're desiring?
No, just because I was watching this film, but not full, I was watching maybe half an hour only on the film. So this was a very long beginning for us, and I was explaining. It's like I understand for myself, like you already said, everything coming to us according to our karma is fixed for this life. Yeah, this means if a person watching this film or just reading this kind of book, he thinking that this is also kind of from his karma, to think like this, to act like this. That's what I understand.
I wouldn't agree with that. I don't know if that's your question, but I don't agree with that.
Right.
Because we have free will. We can choose. So, for example, in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada states that Bhagavad Gita discusses 5 things: God, the living entity, time, material energy, and karma. And of these 5, the 4 are eternal except for karma. Karma is not eternal. Karma can be changed. And that karma can be changed by the desire of the living entity. When we decide that we've had enough of this place, that I'm tired of struggling here, I want to get out, and then we start to look for some alternative, and we are guided by Krishna to find the eternal religion.
If I understand right now, our karma is fixed, but we have free will, go left or right. This means we create an action for our next life.
Yeah.
That's what the same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, by that free will, we create the next life. So, I got some money. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to enjoy, or I'll give some in charity. Right? I'll use it properly. I won't use it properly. So, how I use that money will impact the karma in the next life. So that karma is not fixed. We can change it, and we change it by our free will, and also by desire. That's pretty true.
Because many times devotees said that senior devotees also, when there are a lot of people flapping and Kirtan or singing Hare Krishna karma change. This means it's possible to change our free will, like heavy karma. No.
What this means is 250, Bhagavad Gita. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions even in this life. So, the act of devotional service erases all the karma. Right? All that karma that was going to give us future births. We're carrying around this huge bag. Just imagine, right? Any thought creates a reaction. Any thought. I give you another example of that. I was in the Miami temple one time. I was chanting japa. The temple, this is they had this big building on Miami Beach. It was shaped in an H shape. So I was in one room and I was chanting japa and I was looking into the offices of the BBT. And in the BBT offices, they had nice pictures. We have so many nice pictures in this temple. So I was thinking, just a passing thought, it'd be nice to work for the BBT. Because it's always so nice to work with Prabhupada's books and so on. It wasn't a serious desire. It wasn't something I think, yeah, hey, I'm going to go. No, it's just passing thought. Comes to the mind and goes. Anyway, about 6 months later, they came and asked me if I wanted to be the press manager for the BBT. So I wound up living in that same room I was looking into when I had that desire. So, any small thought like this, even how insignificant, it's a desire seed, and it will fructify in due course of time. So we're carrying around with us a huge stock of these desire seeds from so many lifetimes, and they're just waiting for the proper time to manifest. Just like in the earth, there's so many seeds, but they don't all grow, right? You clear the land, you don't have to plant seeds. Things will start growing because the seeds are already there. So, our participating, our activities in devotional service destroy all those karmic seeds. Just an example is given, just like a fire. If a fire comes, it will destroy the seeds. They cannot sprout. They don't grow. So this is how that means. And you clap your hands in arti. It's not that my destiny has changed. I was going to be a poor man, but now I'm going to be a rich man because I'm clapping in kirtan. No, it means all that karma that was going to force me to be born again and again, that's gone. Okay?
I just wanted to understand better how what's the relation between the desire and then but the karma that is already there, because you said that we may delay something, put it on the list and then it will come, but if we have already, reactions to our bad actions from the previous life, means it may not come, or it may come in the next life, or...
Right. Yeah, they don't say this in the movie, a very important omission. They don't tell you that if it's not in your karma in this lifetime, you can't get the result, right? And they don't tell you that if it's not in your karma in this lifetime, you're going to have to be born again in some future time to get that result. Maybe you don't want it that bad, So, yeah, that's fact. Exactly as you're saying. We only get what's within our destiny. But we also have to work to get what's in our destiny. It's not that we just sit here. This is a problem in India. In India, they think, yes, it's my karma. I sit here and do nothing, and it will come. No. And then you compare it to America, for example. America they don't know anything about karma, and they're working, and they're getting results because they're producing the karma in this life. I'm producing my parking spot in this life in 10, 15 minutes or a half hour. I'm creating the result in this life, not in some future life. So, it's complex. If you have a very big desire, you can't perhaps manifest it in this lifetime, right? I want to be the Queen of England. Well, Kate Middleton, she's the only girl, right, who was able to have that desire and then be able to manifest it in this lifetime. All the other girls, maybe not. They'll have to come back in another life. So a big desire, we may not get in this life. The point for us is to understand how work works, how our activities bring results, or how the results come to us, and how to give up the fruitive mentality of working to get a specific result. And so Krishna's teaching us how to work for devotional service, for his pleasure and satisfaction, and depend on the result, depend on him for the result. If the result is there, nice. If it's not there, nice. Because we're not working for the result, we're working to please Krishna.
Unless we're directly connected to the temple, unless one is directly connected to the temple, then there is actually no going to Krishna.
Well, what's a temple? You make your own house a temple, right? You can live in Krishna's temple. He's the Lord, the proprietor, and you live there as his servant. Then when you go to work to get money to pay the rent, you're doing devotional service. If you have that mentality that Krishna is the proprietor, and I'm working to maintain him.
To some degree, but not to the standard perhaps.
Generally, we see that if you live perhaps in this building, you're going to have a different mentality than in your own house, because you're going to be thinking it's my house, not Krishna's house. Here you think it's Krishna's house. Over there you think it's my house. It's my house and Krishna is there. Here we think it's Krishna's house and I am here. Right? So that's the mentality that we want to have. It's Krishna's house wherever I am. Krishna owns everything. He's the proprietor of everything. It's only my illusion that I think this is my house, right? No. It's Krishna's house. He's an owner, he's a proprietor, he's the Lord of the house, and I am living there as his servant. So if we can have that mentality all the time, then we can be doing devotional service all the time. We can be free from that fruitive mentality. We don't work for the purpose of my pleasure and satisfaction. We work for the pleasure and satisfaction of Krishna. So this is the change in consciousness that we want to make as a result of our sadhana, as a result of our practice of Krishna consciousness. We want to switch from I'm the enjoyer, I'm the proprietor, I'm the dearmost friend, to Krishna's the proprietor, Krishna's the enjoyer, and I'm his servant.
Well, it's not clear, and I watched this program in secret, and it's still not clear on the need to go with it to some degree, but not completely. Because Prabhupada is often quote from Narada Muni and just as you don't want the stress to come,
right.
they come, and so you sing with
Marta Sparsha Sukhantaya, Sitosna Sukhadukada, same thing.
So, so whatever, how to use some stress on you, that's it. So if I try to manifest something in my desire, it seems that, well, that's one thing that it's not on to get it, I'm not going to get it. But you seem to suggest that if you can work with it and see if you can make some list and it will manifest.
I had experience with that. I had a sales job, and we were told, read this book, Think and Grow Rich, and it gave basically the same idea. Because in sales is such it's a very mental kind of a work. According to how my experience, according to how I was thinking, I'd get a sale or I wouldn't get a sale. And I could see how I'm creating karma in this life by my mental attitude. So I worked with that quite a bit over a period of about 10 years until I finally realized that maybe I shouldn't be trying to create karma. That's not really a good idea. I should just be doing devotional service.
One thing I thought that was, sometimes you can buy things on HP, like you do have a catalog in order, so many things are on music cards. So you may be able to get those things, but then, like say in the case of the secret, they may be able to get so many things that they design, but it's not like on HP. They have to pay it all. It's not like that it's coming, from the source or the universe.
Well, you have to pay to some degree. Depends on what the thing is. I give you more examples. Okay, after I was temple president in Vancouver Temple, when I was temple president, I gave away everything that I had practically. I didn't have much. And then after that, of course, then I needed a job, I needed clothes, I needed a car, and so on. So I made the list. I need a car. What kind of car did I put down? I want a Mercedes-Benz 340 SL. Very nice sports coupe. Okay. I put down I want a $5,000 wardrobe. I had no money. Okay. And I put down a bunch of other things. So, sometime later, I don't remember how long, a couple weeks, maybe a month later, I'm going by a garage sale, an estate sale. So some man died. His nephew is selling off all of his things. Well, the guy that died was exactly my size. He was fairly wealthy and he had very nice taste. So I saw he had a bunch of suits for sale there, and I said, how much are the suits? He said, $10 each. They're like $300 or $400 suits. Right? So I bought 6 suits for, what did I buy? I bought it, anyway, $100. I got about 8 suits and shirts and ties and everything, and I had my $5,000 wardrobe, almost, and I paid $100 for it. Then I look out in the street, and here's a Mercedes-Benz 340 SL, exactly the color that I wanted also. I said, what about the car? He said, I'm not selling that. I'm going to keep that one. So, the clothes were in my karma. I still had to pay some money, but the car was not in the karma for this life. Maybe it could be if I was willing to, go work and, save up the money needed to get it, but I'm not that motivated for it, or wasn't that motivated for it. So, we still have, you still have to pay. Just like, okay, we have our destiny. We have so much that's going to come to us. But we still have to work. It's not that, again, that we just sit there and then it's just going to, the money's going to show up in the mailbox somehow. So we have to do something. But it's not that our doing something is actually bringing that result. That result is coming as a result of our destiny from earlier. Understand? Mm-hmm. Okay.
How should we desire?
Desire. Very good question. What's the best thing for me to desire? Pure devotional service, I think. Isn't that what?
Desire pure devotional service
It's very elevated, sure. Who is it that wanted to be a blade of grass? Vidura? Vidura. No, not Vidura. Huh? Uddhava. Yeah, let me be just a blade of grass so the gopis will step on it. This is his desire. Yeah. You guys see me? No. No, okay. So, how then, if we're not entitled to the fruits of action, and this whole world is arranged in such a way that I need the fruits of action, how are we going to live? Very interesting how the words work. One has to work without a fruit of mentality, but without desiring the fruits of action. And one way to do that is to make a garden where you're actually getting fruits, real fruits. Huh? For example, live a simple life and maintain yourself with what comes from the earth. So, what are you working for in that case? some potatoes, tomatoes, some eggplants. Huh? How much of a fruitive mentality can one have when you're dealing with potatoes? I want more potatoes. More potatoes. Right? How many potatoes do you need? Enough to last until next year's potatoes come, right? Beyond that, who cares about potatoes? Right? So your work is automatically adjusted to simply what you need. And then you have time left over for Krishna consciousness. This is the idea. Live simply. Your food, Krishna is giving. Mother Earth is giving. You grow what you need, and then not more than that. And then everything else is automatically adjusted, and this fever for sense gratification goes away. These unlimited desires become calmed down to really maintain the body in a simple way, and then live for Krishna consciousness. No, everybody grows things. Everybody has to eat, right? So the Vaishyas, they engage in agriculture in terms of producing abundance. Most people aren't going to garden for abundance. They garden according to their needs. But the Vaishya's mentality, he wants to make abundance. So you go, I don't see it here, but you go to Ukraine, Russia, and everybody's got, in their backyard, they're growing, right? Everybody's got a kitchen garden out there, that part of the world. Actually, more people are starting to do that now, everywhere. In America, I think I read something like 40% of households are growing some food. Pretty nice. So, anyway, not just for Vaishyas. Everybody can grow food. Even Brahmanas would keep cows sometimes.
The time it takes to maintain a garden, and taking much time for studying.
Well, it depends on how the culture is working. Okay, when you have a fully developed culture, then one can specialize. When a culture is embryonic, everybody has to do many things. So, for example, in the culture at Lord Chaitanya's time, or Krishna's time, the Brahmanas perhaps didn't have to do much gardening because they had their other duties, and then the whole culture was working. Now, for us, we don't, we don't have a well-developed culture. We have just an embryonic little start, and so it's not, that we say, well, I'm a Brahmana, I don't have to put my hands in the dirt. Do you want to eat next year or not? So, and yeah, it's work, but only for 6 months, right? And then we have our Chaturmasya here between November and March. And right? And that's when you sit down, and that's when you read and study. But if you're working for money, you don't get 4 or 5. You don't get any Chaturmasya. You don't get any time off. You always take your nose to the grindstone. Lucky.
Yeah, even if you do a garden, if you just do gardening, you have plenty of time to read and study. Have fun. But if you have to also go into town several times a week, then you have to also do so many other things. then it's impossible. One has to, if one has a simple life, one has to have a simple life, not a simple life and a complicated life at the same time.
Very good. Very good. It's actually not difficult. It's a lot of work during planting and during harvesting. In between though, it's not too much to do. Water, make sure it gets water. Maybe you don't have to do that here, I don't know, it's crazy yet. So, planting and harvesting. Not a lot. And preserving. Okay, enough for one session. How do you guys want to do this? We can keep on going with part 2 of spiritual economics. Let's say we take a break and then come back at it again. What time is Prasanna? 1 o'clock is Prasanna. So what do you want to do? Actually, I need my computer for the next part. Okay. Huh? Okay, problem is, I need my computer for the next part. Oh, it is? Okay. Alright, yeah. So let's take a break then and then we start. Sri Prabhupada ki?